Hey, it's Terry, your favorite no bullshit artist and business coach, and you're listening to Terry Talks, where we discuss all things taboo, uncovering art industry nonsense, grounding you in confidence and leadership to run an arts business with unwavering power and grit. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Terry Talks. It is Sagittarius season. So if you are a Sag, moon, sun, rising, whatever, you got to feel the heat right now. We are on fire. We have just shed our skin. We are entering this month with the storm behind us. Water is behind us, and fire is just breathing dragon breath. So, with that being said, my energy is through the roof. I'm feeling pretty good about this month, and I want to talk about email marketing. And I hate that there's no other way to describe sending out emails for the purpose of selling something or sharing something that we have for sale in terms of business. But we're going to use it just for the sake of it being the most simple way for me to describe what we're going to talk about today. Now, I've had two calls today where email marketing came up as kind of a sticking point in their business. One client was talking about the fact that they just don't do it. They've got an email list, but it's not something, it gives them the ick. Okay. And then there's another client that does emails, but more like once every quarter and then dumps in a whole ton of information and is like, okay, peace. And then of course, there are the people that kind of have this flow going, but only when there is something to share that's, urgent or time sensitive. There is a middle ground, people. There is a middle ground. Hallelujah for the middle ground and the balance. But first, we have to overcome some of these limiting beliefs around writing and emails, what to say, what kind of template. Does it have to be fancy? Does it have to be long? Can it be short? Does it have to be newsletter? Guys, it can be whatever the fuck you want it to be. As long as you've got something popping to share, as long as you have something genuine and let's use the word authentic and it's in your voice, it's not supposed to be anything else. But I do want to stress how important, even for me, it's become over the last 2 years that I have actually jumped on the email train and I love it today. And I'm not a good writer. And I'm sure there's a shit ton of grammatical errors probably in every email. But I know how important it is to have multiple platforms of communication. When I want to say fuck Instagram, I am able to express myself so much more in depth, succinct, clearly in an email that's so different than this momentous, constant, saturated, beautiful platform that is social media. But the uses are different. The intentions behind either of them are different. And the way you can use them in terms of promotion or in terms of exclusivity is really a powerful tool in itself. But let's talk about those mindset blocks around email. The first one that I had when I was so anti-email, first of all, I was using MailChimp. And I'm no shade to people who are using MailChimp, but this was now probably 7 years ago. I didn't have that many. I think I had like 100 people on my mailing list, and I was kind of started. And when I look back at these emails, holy shit, they're so fucking ugly. Like the templates were just from MailChimp. You couldn't move things around. I honestly don't know what it looks like today, and if I'm assuming they've made upgrades, but I reached a point where the template alone was limiting. And of course, this idea of newsletter was stuck in my head. So I felt like it had to look like a newspaper. And even if I had nothing to say, I might just fill it with some bullshit. And that's not the newsletters or the emails that I like to receive. So once I started to really take a different look at the emails I was getting, subscribing and unsubscribing to, that's when I started to get pretty serious about what I wanted my emails to look like. How do I present myself in an attractive way in email without it getting lost, without it sounding redundant and looking like everyone else's emails? How can I piece together what I want to say by kind of taking inspiration from different channels? And so what I did was I studied the emails that I loved and kind of pulled inspiration from all of those, and then started to just dive into my own way of presenting my information. It wasn't like I had this grand, content plan, or I felt like I had to do X, Y, and Z. And I think that a huge part of that shift was when I was like, okay, MailChimp, you are not doing it for me. You're not exciting me. You are not helping me be more creative. You are not helping me present this like other side of myself that could be so much more powerful. So I moved to Flowdesk. Okay. Fucking game changer. If you don't know about Flowdesk, maybe you have not yet started, your email journey, I highly suggest using Flowdesk. Now, of course, there are multiple platforms. This was, to me, the most affordable for what I wanted, the most malleable, the beautiful templates. And it did exactly what I needed to do without any real limitations. And they've been so incredible in just updating the platform. Like, they just added a countdown that's just all automatically there if you want to use it, and plugins. Anyway, hit me up if you want that affiliate link, because you get like a 50% discount for the year. But I think that really gave me the motivation, like just having the creativity to pop in different photos. And it had these pre-made templates that were just like exciting to use. So that was one thing that I think really helped to kind of push the resistance out of my body, or the pressure to do something in a very, very specific manner. And what I noticed about emails that I loved were that they were straight to the point. They offered some graphics. They spoke in a very just conversational way. There was no fancy, it didn't feel like it was coming from someone that wasn't them. And I loved that. And I followed them on social media, so I can kind of like see the congruency. So when I kind of started to get this thing going, a couple of things I left behind was the newsletter aspect. Fuck the newsletter. I wanted it to be like a journal. I wanted it to be somewhere where I could express different ideas in a more in-depth way, or take some posts that I had not been able to fully go into, but then I could do that without any limitations in my email. The next thing that I left behind was the idea that my emails had to be super long. They don't. And oftentimes people won't read them anyway. So you want to keep them as succinct and as clear and as basic as possible. Now, sometimes can I get long-winded? Sure. That's just a part of the process. You get into this, you just get into the writing and you just journal all the way through. And then you have to edit and whatever else. The next thing that I had to let go of was that I had to do it every single month. Like, there was a timestamp on when I had to send out an email. Oh my God, everybody would be waiting. It's that social media anxiety that we get around that word consistency. But what if I just sent one out whenever I felt like it? What if I sent one out when I had things that were really important to break down? And another thing that I left behind was that because I knew that they didn't have to be super long, I could write one long thought in maybe 4 emails, breaking them down into smaller chunks. And when I started to do these things, my open rate skyrocketed. Now, I still want to say, in all honesty, that my conversion rate from emails only is not super high. I'm a newbie at this. Just because I've been doing emails pretty on point and pretty thoughtful and purposefully the past year and taken it really seriously does not mean that I'm an expert at it. And I certainly do not have a writing background. Hell fucking no. But one thing I know is that people are reading. And I think a statistic is like anything over 35%, maybe it's a little bit lower, is pretty good. And on average, I get about a 44% open rate, which is wild. So just to kind of break down all of those things that I not only had to leave behind in order for me to embrace the email marketing journey was like, I have to be shameless about this shit. I'm a woman in business. I have bills to pay. I have a passion to fulfill. And I want to make sure that there is no gap between those two things. So if email marketing, social media, showing your face on Instagram, showing up for yourself, being strong, being a negotiator, being someone that fucking crosses off their T's and dots their I's is the thing that is the gap between the money and the income and paying your rent and your passion, you've got to close that gap super fast because it's not worth the wait. It's not worth the amount of sort of disappointment you'll feel later on for not just trying. So if you're someone who's just starting out on your email journey, here's a couple things to get shit popping. Here's a couple things. Let's pop that bottle. Let's just get on it. Is that there is a free template that I created for you in Canva. That's one thing that you can use to get your email started. And in the template, there's already ideas plugged in for you. Now, it's obviously you copy the template so you can easily plug in whatever you want, delete whatever section you want. But those are to highlight what you could, because a lot of people that I speak to will say, well, I don't even know what to say in an email. What am I going to say? There are so many ways to keep the connection alive with your audience besides social media. And if your connections aren't even strong on social media, then this might be a way to connect with people who are not even on social media. So having those different points of contact is going to be super important. If you're just starting out on email, another thing would be to get over the fact that you only have 5 emails, 10 emails, 100 emails. It's the point of contact. It's the communication. It's the consistency in connection and building a relationship, email after email after email after conversation. You'd be surprised at how many people will open up your email and read it through and through and are waiting to hear from you again. And then the next thing I want you to really think about when you're preparing your maybe first email is to just keep it fucking simple. Introduce yourself. Use a post that you've already created in Instagram, plug that in, and just magnify that. And add to that. Elaborate on that. Maybe, 100 characters just isn't enough. Maybe you need to remind people or new people who you are, what you stand for, what you're working on. Maybe it's one snippet of a picture in your studio, right? Bring us into your world in more than one way. And email is a great platform to do that on. So just to do a little recap, if you do not have an email platform yet, Flowdesk is something you should try out. I'll put the link in the comments below. And if you are someone who needs some guidance with emails, you can always book a strategy call with me and we can talk through how to just like get over the hump, get started. If you're someone who has been sending out emails, but maybe the open rate is not as strong that as you had expected or as you want it to be, then it might be the content. It might be the stuff you're writing in the email. It might be the formatting that's not really accessible. So there could be so many different things because we want to customize everything to your specific arts business. This is about you. And it's about the way that you relate and connect and find similarities with the people who are out there because people buy from people. They want to love you. They want to be in your space. They want to be close to you. And we have to allow them that. So we're going to pause here. Until next time, have a great rest of your day, whatever time it is where you are, and stay tuned for the next episode. Peace out.